What is going on, everyone? This is Drew Code Sports Talk. I am your host, Andrew Wright, and over in his living room is my co-host, Cody Johnson. Cody.
What's going on, everyone? This is a special episode. If you guys can't tell, we are on the screen with the legend himself, content creator, and the host of a podcast, Real Talk with Kenny King. It is the man himself, Kenny King. Kenny, man, thank you so much for joining us. How's it going?
Going well. Thanks for having me on, guys. How you guys doing?
Awesome. Doing awesome. I am so thankful that you were willing and able to do this. I listened to your. I'm gonna fangirl a little bit, so I'm very sorry about this. But I have followed you on Twitter since like day one, since I started. I have followed. I remember watching your dad with the Raiders towards the end because I didn't grow up in the 80s, but I remember hearing Kenny King quite often. My dad grew up in the Bay Area, so we watched Raiders and Niners all the time. So I remember the name Kenny King, and then I heard about you, and so I followed you, and you're just like the ultimate Raider fan, and so I have just always have admired that. So very, very excited that you're on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Excited to be here.
Cool.
Sorry, I had to do it.
It's all good. It's all good.
I think it's, to be truthful,
I'm nobody, but you know.
No, you are definitely not nobody.
Yeah, and to us, we're just two kids from the Central Valley. So the fact that you're giving us your time again, it's a true honor. So we appreciate it. So, yeah. Drew, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with the first question? We won't waste any further ados because we have a lot of topics to get to. And Kenny, I know I sent them to you, so hopefully we get through them okay. And, and I'm sure there's a lot more to get to, of course, because, again, camp open today. I'm sure we'll touch base on that a little bit. So let's get it started.
Yeah, honestly, as you said, Cody, camp open today and saw a lot of pictures with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing to Davante Adams. And I'm not going to lie to you. Okay, first off, Kenny, if you don't know, as he said, we're guys from Central Valley, so we were huge Derek Carr fans. I mean, we watched him in high school, going to Fresno State, and then coming to the Raiders was just like epic for us. And so hearing about Jimmy Garoppolo, at least for me, I was kind of like, I'm not going to love this, but I saw the simplest 5-yard out pass to Davante Adams, and I was like, I'm all in. I am all in on the Raiders this year. So I got super excited. Let me ask you about training camp first. This is kind of going off script already, but I just kind of want to get your feelings on how you're feeling. Day one camp.
Day one of camp. I mean, it's exciting to see some content. Finally, you finally see something other than just pictures of players out there. You get to see something. So seeing Jimmy to Davante, it's exciting. Seeing Marcus Peters out there is exciting. Seeing him wearing that 24, having a corner wearing the 24 again, it's just, it gives you chills, right? It gives you goosebumps. You get excited about it. That's what it is for me is finally we have the sense of normalcy that football is back and, we can start getting ready for games. And, for me, I was one of those guys where it was like, I'm not going to get high on the Raiders. I'm not going to do it. I'm expecting, mediocrity, and now I'm like, we're winning the Super Bowl.
That's exactly how it goes. This is okay. For those of you who don't know what it's like to be a Raiders fan, this is it. You get your hopes high. You're all ready for the season. The season goes on. You're pissed off. You're almost at a state of depression, if not at depression. Season ends, you're like, oh my God, I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to get all hyped up. And then training camp comes, you see that first pass by the quarterback to your top receiver, and you go, oh my God, we're going to win. I mean, we're just going all the way. It's that is what it is to be a Raider fan. I mean, I remember last year seeing Derek Carr, Davante Adams, everyone was posting, they were dominant in college. Look at this connection. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait. This is the life of being a Raider fan.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
So I just kind of wanted to get your stance on the opening day here. So let's go into the questions that we originally asked. So before we get into all things Raiders, I did want to ask you this because if I'm not mistaken, you live in Oakland or around Oakland, correct?
Right outside, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, we're huge Giants fans, and especially just right now, yesterday, the A's and Giants united and were chanting "Sell the team," which was just. I mean, it gave you goosebumps. I mean,
I was just gonna say your shirt's very telling.
The shirt is epic, and I love that everyone is coming together. I love that everywhere I see, everyone is mad that they're moving from Oakland. Yeah. But we don't really necessarily live on the Bay Area, specifically near Oakland, so we don't really have the feel for how the city is really truly feeling, other than obviously we hear about sell the team. But like, what is the aura around Oakland right now?
So me growing up in the Oakland area, I grew up as a Raiders fan, obviously. There was a Giants and A's fan. A's fan first back then, and then Giants. Now it's kind of morphed into Giants first and then A's. But the fans of sports out here are pissed off. I mean, quite frankly, you lose the Warriors in San Francisco. That was kind of inevitable. We saw that happening. You lose the Raiders for the third time, or the second time, and now you're losing the A's, and it's frustrating as fans because we feel like there could be something that gets done, but the city leadership doesn't know what they're doing, and that's the biggest frustration, is that you have a bunch of morons running the city that are basically just running it into the ground, and so that's the frustrating part. And then you have the leadership of the A's that don't care. They don't care about the fans. They don't care about the fan base. They don't care about anything. And the fans are fed up. And that's why you see people not going to A's games. That's why you see people wearing the sell the team t-shirts. That's why you see people on social media freaking out, because the A's, if they go to Vegas, they're going to be an expansion team. I mean, that's what it's basically going to come down to. You don't have the fan base that's going to go and follow them like you would with the Raiders. And the ownership is not doing anything for the fans to make them want to go. You get rid of your best players. You have the lowest payroll in sports. Your stadium is trash. You don't try to get something done. You block the Raiders from getting a new stadium done because you sign a 10-year lease. Mark Davis offers you a percentage of the Raiders so you guys can both stay. You say no, and then you want to move. So Oakland fans, San Francisco fans, Bay Area fans are pissed off.
Yeah. I think, and I was telling you too, because I'm in the hospitality industry, so tourism is a huge component for bringing in business. I can only imagine what the city of Oakland is struggling with right now. I mean, you have, 4 major sports that were in that city at some point in time, and they've all potentially up and left. So you got to wonder, what is that going to do for the travel to Oakland, and what is that going to do for the notoriety? What is that going to do to the city impact on an economics level, just because of the last essentially professional team, the A's, which is probably one of the historic teams in Oakland, is basically being pushed out the door by the city itself,
Yeah, and I think you're gonna see a big drop off in tourism. I mean, you already have the break-ins that deter people, and now you have no reason for people to come out here. So it's gonna be big. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, I went to the Oakland Coliseum. I actually went for an A's game, and the recent one I went to a Raiders game when they were still here, and the atmosphere there is like any other place. I mean, I would argue the Raiders atmosphere was way different, and it was the best experience I ever had. But them moving to Vegas, it's exactly what the Raiders are kind of going through right now. I can't tell you how many times I was watching a Raider game and the announcers are saying, "Well, I think there's more of the away fans than the Raider fans," and it's like, I mean, you would never see that in Oakland. You wouldn't even dare. I mean, you've had to have been tailgating for you to walk in with a other team's jersey on in Oakland. Like no one ever would dare to go there. I remember someone at the Raiders Stadium. They were dressing up in all the Raiders gear, and they had something tied to them. And we saw that because we were going against the Broncos, and it was like a plastic horse, and they were just dragging it as they were walking. And I was like, only in Oakland, man, like only. Yeah. And so it's so. I mean, the A's fans, the real true, like through and through A's fans, I mean, they are absolutely diehards like any other team that you would have. And you're going to then move the team to Vegas, or, I mean, we assume Vegas, I mean, probably. You're just never going to see the diehard. I mean, if I'm an A's fan, I don't really, I mean, they haven't been good for a while anyway. Why am I going to also want to follow them? I mean, I would rather go and watch a Giants game where the stadium is beautiful. And there's a ton of food vendors, and there's so much going on at that stadium that it's going to be hard to continue to be an A's fan. And so I think that's what the real outrage is you're not going to have the same A's team or fans that you would normally.
Well, and the other thing to add to that is you have a lot of tradition. We talked about tailgates. There's a lot of tradition that goes into it, just like it did with the Raiders. And I know some Raider fans that won't go to Vegas. People I know, they have family outings there. They have family reunions there. They have birthdays and events there. So there's a lot more tied to it. It's not just the fandom, but it's the sentimental value, which, leaving Oakland, it's tough. And being at the Coliseum, it was insane. It was one of the best, some of the best experiences I've ever had. Peeing into a trough sucked, but
that was the worst.
But the other thing with Vegas is, would you rather take a weekend vacation to Oakland, or would you rather take a weekend vacation to Vegas? And that's why you're starting to see, fans of the other teams. Now, if the Raiders start winning, you're going to see more Raiders fans there because they'll want to pay that money. But the resale on tickets is ridiculous. I'm a season ticket holder, and I mean, sometimes I like my eyes pop out at the price that I have to list my tickets at. So
yeah. But that box that they come into is majestic. I'll say it's probably the best season ticket holder case that you'll ever see.
We got that baby.
Right there you go. There you go.
This is last year's, but
still though. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. I'm not making it out to a Vegas game for the Raiders because, well, I can't afford it. So, there you go. I'm just not going to pay that kind of money right now. No, that is a goal of mine. I mean, recently, actually, my wife and I, we were in Vegas, and just driving by the stadium, I was like, man, I want to go so bad, but I just, right now it's pretty. Yeah, there you go. That's true. Yeah, you get to see some of the young guns. So yeah. But anyway, I remember going to the Coliseum for a Raiders game. It was my very first Raider game in Oakland, and me and my wife went, and a buddy of ours also tagged along, and it was just the stadium is crap, but the fans were just epic. It was just the best. It was just the best. So I don't, and it came off the screen too on TV, and with the Vegas right now, it just hasn't come off the screen like it used to. So I'm a little like, man, I don't want to get high expectations, but that stadium looks really nice. So, yeah.
Definitely.
All right. Well, speaking of the Raiders, of course, we talked about earlier, the camp just opened. And Kenny, I know that you posted, and also it's going around too. It's not just your platform, but, Max Crosby was on and he had a press conference and he was talking about that he started basically his training 2 weeks after the season ended and putting in that time. So, during the draft, our first round pick was a defensive player. We have Chandler Jones, who we signed last offseason, who I think we can all agree didn't have the greatest season that we were hoping for with the expectations around it. Yeah. So, on this second season, what is your expectations with Chandler Jones, with Tyree Wilson, and that defense as a whole?
So Chandler Jones, I'm not down on him yet. I saw that he's lost weight. He's working on, he worked on getting leaner. getting his speed back up to where it used to be. Getting, I think he's going to be more of that pass rush specialist this year, because we know that he's not really great against the run. So, bringing him in on the NASCAR packages, get him in there to where he's a pass rush specialist. I think he's going to have a lot more success. And I definitely see him having a better year than he did last year. Tyree Wilson, I don't know. I mean, the guy's injured. He was injured when he was drafted. He was supposed to be ready for camp. He's not ready. Is he going to make it week one? Is he going to be there week one? And that's the biggest question mark. I think if he plays, he's going to be exciting. I mean, he's got his arms are longer than Max's.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's got like freaking arms like a freaking bus.
Yeah.
And it's like, I want to see the guy play. And so that's going to be the biggest thing is can he play, and can he play at a high level? We won't know until we see him out there on the field.
Yeah, he's almost like a bulkier Kevin Durant is what it reminds me of, because his arms are so long. It is ridiculous. Yeah, I agree with that for sure. All right. Well, as we had said in the beginning, Kenny, that we're obviously from the Central Valley, so we followed Derek Carr. I don't know, for me at least, the Derek Carr situation really rubbed me the wrong way. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, you're a Carr stan, blah, blah, blah. Listen, yes, I like Derek Carr. I thought he was one of the greatest Raider quarterbacks ever. I truly believe that. I think he did a lot for this team, and he played at a very high level, almost MVP level. And I just really had an issue with them just saying, well, we're done with him. We're going to be done with him. So if you want to trade for him, trade for him. I felt like they should have been. I mean, I know as fans, a lot of the times we want honesty. We want the team to just be honest with us. But I felt like we did a disservice to ourselves for saying, we don't want Derek Carr. We don't want Derek Carr. And then everyone was like, well, they're offering trades, but why would you actually go through with the trade when you can get him without giving up anyone else or draft picks or anything like that? So the issue for me was I didn't like how they just were like, well, we're done with him. I felt like you need to get something for him instead of just losing him and paying him, what was it, like $5 million or something ridiculous for an NFL team anyway. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But having said all that, do you think that Josh McDaniels really was believing in Jimmy Garoppolo and why he was okay of letting Derek Carr? Or do you believe that this is a tactic for them to go after Caleb Williams? I assume they think Garoppolo is good enough to play, but he does have an injury history, which is why I think they may have gone after him to be like, if he's healthy, then we're good. If he's not, then we're still okay. So I don't know. What do you take on that?
I think so with the Derek Carr situation, everybody's going to be upset, for one thing or the other. And I didn't like the way that it played out. I understand it from a business standpoint. You look at, you have all this guaranteed money. If he plays, if he gets hurt, then, I get that. It sucks personally because you sit there and you're like, this guy was the best thing that we've had since Rich Gannon. And he's somebody who, we would like to see play out the season, finish it out. He kind of set it up for himself to where it was beneficial for him because he had the no trade clause. And the way they basically did is they said, well, we don't want him. And so teams are like, well, he has a no trade clause. So why would he agree to a trade and help this team if he's going to come to our team and we had to give up assets to get him? So I think he played it well. I think we'll know more about it when his career is over and he decides to talk about it. But, as far as Jimmy G goes, I think you got to look at this. He has history with Josh. Josh is, the guy who drafted him when he was the offense coordinator. He worked with him. Jimmy's had a ton of success in the league. He's got a great record. You got to also remember that he's had a top 5 defense. And so the Raiders currently don't have a top 5 defense. We don't know what the defense is going to do. I mean, this defense could come out here and be insane, or it could come out and be what it was last year. I don't think that it's going to be as bad as it was last year, but you never know. It's the Raiders. But So with Jimmy, I think that he's good. He's serviceable. He fits what Josh McDaniels wants because he'll do what Josh McDaniels says. You know, Derek didn't always want to do what Josh McDaniels said. He wanted to call his audibles. He wanted to, improvise at the line of scrimmage, which is what John Gruden allowed him to do.
Oh yeah.
And so those are the things that you're going to see is that Jimmy's going to be more rigid and he's going to follow what Josh says. And that may or may not have some success. I think also the question is Josh Jacobs and if Josh Jacobs is there. But do I think it's a tactic to get Caleb Williams? I don't see anybody wanting to actually intentionally take unless you're Jim Irsay. I think that, would I love to get Caleb Williams? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I think that Jimmy will be here for a couple of years? I think so. And I would like to see the Raiders. Who knows what Aiden O'Connell can do? Let's see what he can do. But regardless, I would like to see a quarterback sit under a veteran for at least a season and develop.
Okay, cool. Well, I think what's tough though too, and not to continue to add more to this because that was very well done, but I think too with the whole Jimmy G into this system is we're probably just going to see, like what you said, just a player that's just going to go out there, throw the ball when told, run the ball when told, and not really audible, which some would say maybe that was the Raiders' strength during the John Gruden seasons when they were able to kind of, see what the defense is, change to what is going to be effective towards that, play call. And then now with the, McDaniels coming in, it's just more like straight, don't deviate from this plan. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Because I don't know, from my perspective, when we would be watching these games, I don't know if maybe the Raiders just didn't want to change the game plan to kind of, to see what the defense is giving them or the opposing team. And they didn't really want to change the game plan to, get better. It's almost like, let's stick to it, even though it's clear that it wasn't effective and it wasn't working. So for our perspective, at least, I think Derek Carr had a lot of stalling because he's told to do this, but he sees it's not working, runs that play. Obviously it's not working. And then, what would happen is our defense, again, not a top 5 defense, what Jimmy G is used to, we'd give up a lead or we'd let a lead get away from us. So I think I'm very interested to see how this Jimmy G thing goes. And I agree. I don't know if we're going for Caleb Williams, but, I'm hoping that this Raiders team is going to shock a lot of people. But I say that in a lot of, tapered expectation because I thought that last season when we had McDaniels and I thought it improved offense. And it just, the expectations were a little too high, I'll say for myself. And so I think we all got pie on our face from that. So,
yeah. Well, we could also see Tom Brady. This could be a ploy to get Tom Brady back on the field. So, I mean,
I'll take Brady.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably would be an improvement, to be honest.
Someone put, I don't want to see Hoyer. I 100% agree with you.
No. Yeah. Brady wins his first year in any system. So
it's true. That is true.
And I think he would be allowed to change plays at the line of scrimmage. I think he's earned that with Josh McDaniels. So,
yeah.
All right. True. So just to carry on with the player theme, Kenny, is there a player that you foresee having like a great season with the Raiders that people aren't really talking about?
Who I think is going to have a really good season with the Raiders? You look on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go with Nate Hobbs. He had an injury last year. He came back. He didn't play as well as he wanted to, as he did his rookie year. I think Nate Hobbs is going to have that bounce back year where he just comes and lights it up. I think having a guy like Marcus Peters there to help, I think that it's great for his development because it's, the same type of player. And so I'm excited to see Hobbs and see what Hobbs can do. And, I'm expecting him to have a breakout year.
It's a good one. That is a really good one. Yeah, I love Nate Hobbs. That guy, he reminds me of when Nnamdi Asomugha was just starting to come on. He was just, God, I loved Asomugha on the Raiders. He was just so good. And Nate Hobbs, like, just coming out of nowhere, really. And the way he's been playing lately, I love Hobbs.
Do you think then, with the pieces that the Raiders have added, do you think Patrick Graham can turn this defense around and be much improved from last year?
I think so. He's finally got the pieces that fit his defense. And so, when you take over another defense and you try to install that defense, or you try to install a system, players aren't going to fit in those systems. You know, when it's just like when Paul Gunther came in. One, Paul Gunther's an idiot, but two, Paul Gunther tried to install a system, and he was so inflexible in installing that system that the guys couldn't work in him. And you heard it from Arden Key when he left. You heard it from Cleveland Farrell. You heard it from a lot of guys that were in that system, and he's trying to force a round peg into a square hole, and it just doesn't work. And he got so frustrated with himself that he even said in an interview that he didn't know if he could win with the guys that he has out there because they won't do what he wants them to do. Well, then change the game. So I think Patrick Graham is smart enough because he's actually a really, really intelligent guy. Really has a high football IQ. He's somebody who's going to be able to go out there and really adjust it. And I think that you now have talent, not just talent at the first level, but you have talent at different levels. You have some depth at the bench, and that's what they didn't have last year.
Yeah, I'll go on offensive side of the ball, and I would say this one is probably an obvious one to a lot of Raider fans, but Michael Mayer, I think that guy is going to be. He's. I know everyone talks about like he's Gronk, but you just look at the rookie pictures when they were all taken. He was the biggest dude there. It was ridiculous. This guy, and he likes to block. He's not allergic to blocking, which is actually nice. Darren Waller did okay, but that's not his strength. And Mayer is a guy who can definitely catch and block as well. So I'm really looking forward to watching him this year. So he would be my player to watch. I mean, like I said, I think it's obvious for Raider fans, but I think for a lot of people who don't really know who the Raiders got, this guy is actually really. I was upset to see Waller go, but I'm excited to see this guy play for sure.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that's going to stay healthy. I think that's the biggest focus. I love Waller. I think that Waller's a great tight end when he's healthy, but Waller hasn't been healthy. And it seemed like Waller last year just wasn't really into it. You saw him go, skipping to go to the Aces game. All those things kind of stand out. There was people. I remember Carr and Devontae were talking about players not putting in the work, and everybody alluded that it was Waller. And so, you just want to see him get back to where he was working hard and really defining himself. And I think that he'll do that. But I'm excited about Mayer. He's basically, our version of Rob Gronkowski, hopefully. And seeing him and Hooper out there is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And McDaniels does like to run a lot of tight end runs. So that'll really help a lot. And he could be somebody that, could very easily be a secret offensive weapon for us and help in the blocking game too, which would be really great.
All right. Well, Kenny, I didn't know that you were, the Raiders insider man on the running back position. I didn't know that you were personally texting Josh Jacobs. I love the Twitter thing. That was so cool. But I mean, honestly, everything that you were saying, everything that he was responding to, I 100% agreed with. I was like, this guy has been, in my opinion, like at least top 5 running back in the NFL. This guy is so underrated. And what did he do last year or 2 years ago and into last year as well? Is he was sitting there with Hunter Renfrow working on routes, trying to get better as a pass catcher, trying to get better as a route runner as well. And I thought he absolutely put in that work, and it showed on the field for sure. So I thought for sure this was the one guy. It was Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller and Derek Carr. Who's going to stay? I was one of those people who was saying Josh Jacobs for sure is staying. Like, there's no way they're going to let this guy go. And now it seems like they might. So, I mean, in your eyes, where do the Raiders and Josh Jacobs go from here? Like, what's the next step? Is there going to be a deal done, or do you really think that the Raiders are, as well as the NFL, it seems like, are not going to pay this running back?
So it's hard because you have, the running back position, which is severely underpaid. You have the the franchise tag price has gone down significantly over the years. And you're seeing these running backs getting visibly frustrated. You have, Austin Eckler organizing a Zoom call. You have Josh Jacobs, who's, not holding out, but he's not showing up to camp. He hasn't signed his franchise tag, which I think also is a tactic because remember, if you don't sign the tag, you don't get fined. So if he's not going to camp, he's not getting fined for it. Do I think Josh is going to be there week one? Absolutely. I don't think Josh is going to leave $10 million on the table. You have Saquon Barkley, who reworks a deal and gets a 1-year deal.
He got $1 million more.
Yeah. How does that now, speak for Josh? Josh is like, well, look, Saquon got this. I want at least this.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that, is he going to get paid? I think so, but it's going to be next year, obviously. Hopefully he gets a little bit more on his deal this year like Saquon did. But I think that it's going to be one of those situations where, this is going to be a first for Josh McDaniels because he's going to have to pay a running back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think it's unfortunate. I mean, he was the number one running back last season. Saquon Barkley had a bounce back season. I mean, the market for running backs, it's really weird why teams won't pay him. And I get it. Shelf lives for him are like, 6, 7, 8 years or something, really low numbers because they're blocking, they're running, they're catching the ball out of the backfield. They're doing a lot of different things. But I mean, there's a reason why they're an intricate part of an offense. If you got a good run game going, then the play action is working, or, you have a lethal back that's very versatile to do whatnot, which is like what we're talking about. Josh Jacobs was. I think it's just weird though, that every team, it seems like, is boycotting running backs. It seems like I don't get it. This is weird because like Joe Mixon had this issue. Saquon Barkley has this issue. I saw a graphic on Instagram today, which it was Bijan Robinson, who just got drafted, is the highest paying running back, and he hasn't even touched a professional football snap. So
he is this year, but after that, the contract rate his numbers go down. So I think he's like 13 million this year, but then next year I believe it's 400,000. So it's one of those skewed graphics. But yeah, I mean it's ridiculous. You have these guys that are doing it all and they're not being rewarded for it. And I think that's the frustrating part. I mean, I talked about on my pod with Deebo Samuel, where, he was like, well, if you're going to keep running me, this much, I need more money. Yeah. And so, it's frustrating.
Yeah. Do you think the running back position is the most disrespected in all of football? I mean, your dad played running back for the Raiders. Yeah. I mean, won 2 Super Bowls with them. So I got to feel like this is a little closer to home for you.
Running backs and offensive guards, really. They don't pay guards that top dollar, and guard is a very, very tough position. Everybody puts the emphasis on the tackle, but guard is tough. I played guard one game in college, and like the fact that you have to know what everybody else in the line is doing, and that you're basically, if you miss your gap, your quarterback is done. So, I would say offensive guard too, but running backs are definitely disrespected as far as what they're paid and how much they're used.
It's also funny that those kind of are tied together in a way. Like, running backs rely on the guards, and it's just funny how those are like some of the most like disrespected positions in the NFL right now. It's wild to me. I also do think that I would actually kind of throw in safeties. Like, a lot of people forget about safeties. We always talk about the corners. We always talk about, like we said, Nate Hobbs or whatever, but like Trayvon Merrick, he's the guy who I think could potentially have a good year. But, we talk about the corners more. We talk about, whose fault it is at some point. We always blame the safeties towards the end on a deep ball, but we never blame the corners on those. We always blame the corner, if he just gets beat on a short route or whatever.
Sean Smith.
So, so, all right, Cody. Well, let's see. We're jumping around on the questions, so we've thrown myself off here a little bit. Let's talk about the rivalries, because you know what, on Twitter, at least you're very, very vocal about these damn rivalries. I love it. I don't have the cojones to go out there and absolutely just bash a team. But you know what? I respect a man who definitely can back up the talk for sure. Yeah. You know, I know you. I think you watched the quarterback series on Netflix, right?
Yeah, I'm not fully done with it, but I've been watching it. Yeah,
I loved the interaction with Max Crosby and Patrick Mahomes. I was like, I rewound it like 2 times just to watch it again because Patrick Mahomes was like, "Come on, man, come on," and I was like, "Come on, Patrick, you know what his job is. Like, don't act like, come on, man." Yeah. I'm here all day. I'm not here. So, you know, I love the rivalry with the Chiefs. And honestly, even though the Chiefs have, I mean, let's be honest, they've beat us more times than not. But I do think that at least with the games that I have seen with Derek Carr in the recent years, they've always been very, very close. I mean, always very close. And the Raiders, you can always see the way that they could have won. And so I'm hoping that we see that again this year. Hopefully the defense is better because I do think that is a factor. As much as we were all talking about how, you know, them losing Tyreek Hill, they're going to miss a step. I still do believe that this offense has taken a step back a little bit because at times last year, that Chiefs team did not look as monstrous as it used to. You know, Tyreek Hill was that guy who could get out of a tight situation for the Chiefs. So the Chargers, I mean, their offense looked stalemate. The Broncos, I don't know what to expect because of Russell Wilson. Yeah, I love your Broncos hate. It is fantastic. And then that video of Marcus Peters when I think it was when he was with the Rams calling out Sean Payton. I love that. That was God, that got me hyped up. I was like, oh man, I'm ready for Marcus Peters. But you know, I don't really know what to expect in the AFC West. It's I do think the Raiders can be somewhat competitive in the AFC West if their defense has gotten better. I mean, these rivalries? What do you think is going to happen for Raiders specifically?
The Chargers are going to win the Super Bowl for like the 5th time.
Yeah, that's all I've seen. Yeah,
freaking preseason hype always. Hey, look, give Head and Shoulders $262 million. Great, cool. Yeah, Justin Herbert gets paid. Wonderful. I'm not worried about the Chargers. Okay, first and foremost, the Chiefs are still the team to beat. Okay, they're Super Bowl champs. Can the Raiders beat them? Can the Raiders cover a tight end? That's the first question. If the Raiders can cover a tight end, then Raiders can beat the Chiefs because the reason why the Chiefs beat the Raiders is because Travis Kelce beats the Raiders.
Every year. That's it. Just Travis Kelce.
It's Travis Kelce.
He's their best receiver. Why are we not covering him?
He's got like 300 touchdowns against the Raiders in his career. God, you know, Travis Kelce trolls more than me because he's like, I love Raider fans. You guys,
that's true.
Raiders give me all my touchdowns. So stop Kelce. That's the first thing.
Yeah,
I'm not worried. I'm not going to sit here and say Mahomes isn't great, or I'm not worried about Mahomes, but I'm not worried about Mahomes as much as I am about Kelce. You stop Kelce, you stop the Chiefs. That's where the buck stops. As far as the Broncos, I mean, we saw what they did last year. We saw what they did the year before. We saw what they did the year before. I mean, I got my broom just sitting there with painted orange and blue, and I named it Elway because it's so reliable. And so do I think that the Broncos are going to be this automatically great team with Sean Payton? No, I don't think they're going to be, you know, I mean, look, do they maybe jump to 3rd place and the Raiders go to 2nd and the Chargers are last? Maybe, possibly. I don't think the Broncos are going to be great. You still have Jerry Jeudy as your number 1 receiver. Jerry Jeudy, last I checked, couldn't catch a cold to save his life. And, you know, I'm not concerned about him. I'm going to get that broom ready.
Ooh, all right.
Can't wait. It's actually kind of funny you mentioned the Broncos. So shout out to my cousin who's a diehard Broncos fan. He's in our fantasy league. And so we will have pretty good squabbles amongst, you know, Broncos and Raiders fans. So I really hope he's watching right now to get a clip of that because every year it's like, Broncos country, let's ride for him. And then I was texting with him last year. I think the Broncos were some ridiculous record. And then they fired, obviously, Hackett midway through or at some point. And he was like, it's a dark day, man. We just can't talk about this right now. And so we just move on. So I think for his sake, he's hoping for a bounce back. But I agree. Like the Broncos, they did add Sean Payton, different offensive element. Can Russell be somewhat of Seattle? Maybe he's just, not the Russell he was from then. I mean, Chiefs.
I mean, he's not Mr. Unlimited.
Oh, man.
Every time I hear Broncos, let's ride, I just think of the Russell Wilson. Let's ride.
Yeah, every time. But, I agree. The Chiefs, I think it's just stopping Kelsey, if I'm being honest, just like what you were talking about, Kenny. So we'll see. I mean, I guess what I always love, too, is the banter between we had a commenter that I put up a little bit ago about your interaction with the Chargers fans is always really funny. And
all six of them.
Yeah.
What's funny is I love the Charger fans because they give me so much. They give me so much to make content off of.
Yeah.
And I mess with Sean Merriman a lot. We text back and forth, and he's a great sport about it. I love that he's such a great sport about it because I'll text him some crazy stuff, and he's like, bro, I hate you. And there's some Charger fans that are fun to go at it. There's some that are fun for me to destroy. But the Chargers are a really fun fan base to troll because they ain't done nothing. They ain't done nothing. They ain't gonna do nothing, and they'll never be nothing. So keep your Twitter fingers, keep all that, because we know there was only like 5 or 6 of you, and most of them left when Phillip Rivers left because that was all his kids. So we're all right.
What's funny is I loved your interaction. So I see the Sean Merriman on Twitter between you and him, but I also love on TikTok when you went back and forth with NFL Mike throughout the season. Now, granted, the Raiders didn't have the greatest season, but just the banter between you two leading into the season, in the middle of the season. And then, again, every team has their woes. Chargers were no less than that. So it was great to see that little content battle going back and forth between you two. So that was a highlight for me of last year. If there was ever a down year, it was great to get some of that content out between you two going back and forth with one another.
Yeah, Mike's dope. I like messing with Mike. He's one of those Charger fans that gets it, and he embraces the troll, and he's a pretty damn good troll himself. So it's fun. That's
great. Okay, I think we got a couple more questions to go, and I think this one's a pretty pivotal one. So we're talking about the defense, we talked about the offense, Jimmy G, we went down the gamut, but I think the ultimate question, Kenny, is how do the Raiders make the playoffs? Like, is there a road to it? Do you think with how the landscape is in the AFC, do you think the Raiders are in a position where, maybe we can get into one of the wild card spots? Is that a possibility this year, or do you think we're still a ways away?
Beat KC.
Yeah.
No, honestly, the path to the playoffs, at least split with KC. That's the first thing. You split with KC. You want to try. This is where you want to try to win the division. We don't want to look at wild card scenarios. We don't want to look at situations where, is this, can we do this to get this and get this? Go to win the division. Have that mindset. And I think it starts with the head coach. It starts with Ziegler, putting the pieces together. I think that they've done a pretty good job putting some pieces together of guys that want to play, that guys that want to win. And then it comes down to the captains. It comes down to Jimmy G. It comes down to Max Crosby. It comes down to Marcus Peters. It comes down to these leaders that are going to go in there and say, look, we are tired of losing. We're tired of being the joke of the NFL. We're tired of other fan bases, cracking jokes about us. Let's go out there, hit them where it hurts, and shut them up. And I think that's going to be the start right there. We're going to see it week 1, and we're going to see what the tempo is. Week 1, when Raiders go into Denver, they go into enemy territory. This is where you set the tone. You set the tone week 1, and you just keep it going. And I think that's where the Raiders are going to make it to the playoffs. If they don't do that, they come out flat, throw the whole season away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, because exactly what you said. They come out flat. It's kind of what they did last year. They came out really flat, and they just could never gain that momentum back to get where they needed to go. And it was unfortunate because I felt like at the start of the year, I thought we had upgraded everywhere except for defense, but I thought defense was going to be a little bit better with Chandler Jones and Max Crosby rushing the passer. And then Nate Hobbs, I thought was good enough to be the number one cornerback, and he proved that and more, in my opinion. And it never came to fruition to win the games that we should have, or that we needed to win. So I 100% agree with that. If we come out flat, it's done. It's not going to come back, because that's exactly what happened last year.
Exactly.
And I think we can agree too. It's not just, let's go for the division, but it's also some of the smaller steps to get to those wins, like play defense, prevent scoring. When you have a lead, you got to protect it. Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Raiders were one of the bottom teams when it came to protecting a lead. And I think they had like 4 blown leads that were 10 plus points. So just having games like that where we protect the lead, we don't give it up, and then we, play tough all the way through. If last season, had we had some of these games fall our way, we're talking about a different scenario, because I think we were good enough to get into the wild card or even in the playoffs. I think we were that good. But I think this year too, the defense is going to be the big anchor, because we got to see what this offense is going to look like now with Jimmy G, now that he's kind of coming back, and Davante Adams, who we all know is the best wide receiver right now in the game. And again, we just talked about all the pieces that they have. So I'm curious to see if, like in what you pointed out earlier, Kenny, if Patrick Graham gets all these pieces in there, if he can get that defense to kind of hunker down and bend but don't break, protect the lead, and then also create some turnovers too, because that would really help the offense and take some of the pressure off when it comes to those games where maybe they're not moving the ball so well. So I think this is going to be a very interesting season for the Raiders. And, I still am tapering expectations, I'm going to be honest, but I think if there's ever a little bit of some optimism, a little bit's not going to hurt, especially with all that we were just talking about, with the players and, the rookies we have coming in, especially.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, I do have one more question for Kenny. Hold on.
As soon as he comes back.
Yeah. Well, I want to shout out One Nation, Fanware, 1N, and Charles Washington. They've been on here commenting the whole time, and I appreciate you guys commenting. Thank you guys for watching and commenting and interacting with us. So I do appreciate that. So,
and the Chargers slanter has been really funny. So we appreciate it. We're trying to focus here, but then we're getting some of these questions coming in and out, and it's been really, really funny to see that interaction. So really appreciate you guys for hanging in there with us and being a part of the episode with Kenny King. I'm sure he'll join us in just a second. Yeah. So technical difficulties, but I'm sure part of the podcast life. I think you can understand, right, Drew?
You know what? You make fun of me, but it was yours. It was yours this time today.
Are you saying mine's the one that kicked him off? Is that what you're trying to say?
No, I'm saying earlier, before we started the podcast, yours froze for a little bit. And usually you always say it's my Wi-Fi, but Kenny confirmed that it was yours.
Probably. I mean, what's funny is like when you're the lead streamer, you don't see the hiccups, but everybody else will. So that's why like I don't notice it, but you guys tell me you notice it. So welcome back, Kenny.
Yeah. Thanks.
We were just talking about technical difficulties and how we make fun of each other all the time. We always blame each other. We're like, it's your fault. It's your Wi-Fi. You're the one not paying the bill. So
that one was my Wi-Fi. I don't know what happened, but it completely went out. So I apologize.
Love
sorry
that.
Sorry to the viewers. Charles Washington's probably having a conniption over there. So
we were just shouting out your guys for joining us, and we're mentioning we're trying to stay focused as you're giving us your answers, because they're going back and forth about Chargers in the comments, and we're trying not to laugh out loud regarding it and trying to focus. And they're really fun to have banter in the comments. So
for sure. There's a lot of times where I was reading and like you were saying something like not funny, and I was like sitting here laughing or smiling, and I'm like, it's not about what he's saying. I'm just reading all the comments. So anyway, Kenny, I kind of wanted to end on more of a positive, not saying that this was even a negative podcast, but I wanted to end on a positive note. And again, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you even coming on, even answering us like super quickly on Instagram. Honestly, we sent the message and I was like, we're not going to hear from him for, probably a couple of days or so. And like you messaged us back really quickly. So I do want to say I appreciate, honestly, your professionalism and your willingness to want to help these local guys out here. So we appreciate that.
No doubt.
But I did want to end on this. So a memory or experience as a Raiders fan that you cherish the most. I assume most of those are probably going to be about your dad. So I would say maybe one about your dad, and then also just as a pure fan, what is a memory that you have that you really, really cherish?
So for me, I mean, about with my dad, I would say just being a kid or being, a little kid going to training camp with him. All these guys that everybody looks to as, these legends, these guys were practically my uncles. And, so being around these guys from the time that I was born to now, the relationships that have been built, that have been carried on, me being friends with the kids, that's what it's about. One of the things is I've gotten to do a lot of things with my dad for the Raiders over the years. Most recently, we went to the Hall of Fame induction when Tom Flores and Charles Woodson got in.
That's
and
awesome.
I think that, and the coolest thing was like when we went to these events, like people were coming up to me and like, talking to me, and my dad was like, hold on a second. Like, he's like, wait, well, why is everybody coming to you? And then we go to Charles's party. And Charles walks up to me and is like, what's up, Kenny? Like, how you doing? Like, gives me a hug, like talks to me. My dad, like, he's like, wait, he actually knows you? I was like, well, I mean, we follow each other on Twitter, but that was the moment where I was like, okay, like this is dope. And then, now, being sponsored by Woodson Whiskey and having them sponsor the pod, and having them sponsor the events that we do, it's been a really cool turnaround because Charles is always my favorite player, Charles and Tim Brown. So that's probably the coolest experience with my dad. I mean, obviously I just went through a bunch, but then as a fan, my favorite game, aside from the Jacoby Ford KC game, would probably be the Derek Carr's first win. And that first win against Kansas City in the rain, C.O. Moore and Khalil Mack doing their dance 15 yards back, Justin Tuck ready to kick their ass. Charles Woodson. Charles tells me this thing. He's like, man, I was going to knock their ass out if we lost.
But just we all would have agreed that they should have done that.
Yeah.
And just so getting that first win, like that's what being a Raider fan is about, because the Raiders can be 0-16, 0-17. And Raider Nation's always going to get fired up for the team. And that's what I love about Raider Nation. And that's what I love about Raider fans, is that it doesn't matter where the Raiders are. Raider Nation will always be there and will support their team no matter what. And that's, it's exciting. You see somebody out wearing a Raiders hat, and you hit them with that Raiders. It's exciting because they're going to do it back to you. You're not going to have somebody be like, I'm not going to do that in public. Like Raider fans we're loud, we're a boisterous bunch, and we go out there and we have a good time and we back it up.
Yeah, those are good. I like that. You said shout out to Woodson Whiskey, by the way. I actually for the Super Bowl they had like a little competition, and I just I tried to do it, try to win, because it was like a signed helmet by Charles Woodson, and like 4 days after the Super Bowl, I get a message, you won. And I was like, what? Dude. So I have a Woodson Whiskey helmet signed by Charles Woodson, which was so cool. I was so in awe of it. I couldn't wait to show everyone. We had a family get together like the week after I got it, and I'm just showing everyone. I'm like, look at this. I got Charles Woodson's signature. And they're like, wait, how did you get that? And I was like, they're like, what did you pay for it? I was like, no, I won it. I won it on Twitter. This is insane. So that's cool. I was showing that thing off like crazy. I still do every time. Anytime anyone comes over to my house and is like, and I haven't shown it to them, I'm like, hey, look at this real quick. And they're like, yes, this is awesome. So
that's dope.
Yeah. Cody, let's actually, I'm going to ask you the same question. What is a Raider memory as a fan that you cherish the most?
Wow. Okay. So when I was first going into being a Raiders fan, I think I was between like 10 and 11. So during that time, this would have been early 2000s, maybe 01 to 03. That was like my early memories of it. My favorite is I remember when the Raiders signed Jerry Rice, and he was with Rich Gannon, Tim Brown. We had Charlie Gardner as our running back. Jerry Rice. We had a great defense, and I know that we had lost to the Ravens, who became eventual Super Bowl champions. We lost to the Patriots, who became Super Bowl champions. And then I remember when we went into Tampa after we had traded John Gruden, and he absolutely demolished us. But I just remember my uncle, who passed away when I was like 16. He was a diehard Raiders fan, so we got to watch a lot of those games together. And my earliest memories of that Raider offense, and back then it was high-powered and great. Rich Gannon was an MVP at the time. And so that was like my earliest and fondest memories of seeing those games when I was like a really young kid. So.
Yeah, it's a good one. I will say mine. Well, first of all, I didn't really start getting into football, like really, really into teams until like Jerry Rice came over to the Raiders. Jerry Rice was I loved watching him. I didn't care who he played for. If he would have went to the Patriots, I would have watched the Patriots. I just loved how he played. I always wanted to play. I always wanted to play receiver. And I remember in elementary school, I put that number 80. I wanted that number 80. I thought everyone was going to go after it. No one went after it. I grabbed that jersey so quick. And I remember playing, and unfortunately, I didn't get to play receiver that year, though. I played cornerback, which I was a little disappointed with. But still, I had the number 80. That's all I wanted. So I remember Jerry Rice coming over, and I was just so excited for that team. But the one memory I will always remember is, like I said, the game that my wife and my friend and I went to. It was Raiders and Broncos. It was Peyton Manning's last season. He came into Oakland, and I had never been to a Raider game, so I wanted to go. I begged my wife, and she was like, "Yeah, let's go." Which is kind of funny because my wife became a Raider fan when she started dating me, because she was kind of a Rams fan, but not really into football, and she saw how diehard I was about Raiders, and she was like, "Okay, there's something to this." And she came and she went to the game with me, and she instantly fell in love with the Raiders. She was like, "Oh, I get it now. I understand." So we went to this game, and we saw Charles Woodson pick Peyton Manning off 2 times in that game. And it was funny because everyone kept saying this is the only quarterback that Charles Woodson has not picked off. And not only did he do it once, he did it twice. And the way he did it was the sideline interception was just magnificent. I mean, I can't tell you how.
Shout out to DJ Hayden for breaking his fall.
Right.
yes, that's true. There you go. So yeah, that was one of the best memories. I loved watching Peyton Manning. He was one of my favorite players to watch ever. I hated that he went to Denver. I hate that he still kind of is around Denver, but for the most part, that was so cool to see. My guy Derek Carr, Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, just an epic game. And it was such a low-scoring game. It wasn't even that big, but it was the atmosphere. It was everything that happened before my car broke down. We blew a radiator hose that spewed all over San Francisco. We couldn't find parking because it was like $50-$40 because we found out later that Kanye West was where we were at, and President Obama was over there for Fleet Week.
Yeah.
And we got absolutely hosed in that. So we had to take we got a tow truck that had to take us from San Francisco to our hotel in Fremont. We had to my friend and I had to walk about 5 miles to the Embarcadero, where we then took the BART all the way to Fremont, and then had to walk another 5 miles to our hotel. So all of that, it was ridiculous. And then we got to the game. We forgot everything that we just went through. We forgot what we had been going there for. We just had the time of our lives. And that's why I hated seeing the Raiders go from Oakland to Las Vegas. It was just so demoralizing because I loved the experience that I had in Oakland. And there's nothing is ever going to be like that experience.
Yeah, I agree. They're trying to replicate it now. It's getting better at the tailgates, but it's not what it was in Oakland.
Oh my God. The smell, by the way, the smell of the tailgates in Oakland was the best thing I've ever smelled in my life. I never wanted a hot dog so bad in my life until I was walking through the tailgates. I was like, oh my God, where do I get these hot dogs? Will they just let me get one, or do I have to pay for it? Yeah. I love the smell of that. It was just, that's another experience that I had that I have not gotten anywhere else. Just
they did bring that to Vegas. So you got the hot dogs in Vegas.
Yes.
We got to add it to the bucket list, Drew.
All right.
All right, Kenny. Well, we're going to close, man. We appreciate you so much for joining us. Is there anything that you want to plug? I know that you and the Blackout Experience, you guys do a lot of, VIP parties and tailgating, ironically. So is there anything that you want to plug or give out dates to that we can be a platform for you?
Yeah, appreciate it. Every single weekend of home games, the night before, me and the Blackout crew, we're going to be at Tropicana. Come party. It's a free party. Day of, you have the party bus. We start at Barcode Burgers, best burgers in Vegas. We go in the party bus. Party bus takes you to the stadium. From there, you go to J-Lot. We've got a whole tailgate set up. Woodson Whiskey, Pacifico, and Happy Dad are sponsoring that.
Awesome.
You get out there, you have a good time. Go to the game. After the game, we have an after party at the Wynn Field Club. After the Wynn Field Club, hop back in your party bus, go back to Barcode, and call it a weekend. But that's what we got. It's Barcode. We got Tropicana party bus. You can check it all at blackout.com.
That's right, awesome. On. Kenny, I do have to ask you one question. How do you remember some of these games? Because with all the alcohol that is at the tailgates, and especially being sponsored by Woodson Whiskey, I don't think I would remember most of the game.
That's what rewatching the game is for.
There you go. You got to record
when
it.
I go to the games, look, when I go to the games, I don't remember anything. I remember distinctly here. I know that we're running low on time, but I remember distinctly the Arizona game. I didn't know that we lost the game until the next day because by the time I had blacked out, we were up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, we got this." And I'm in the Winfield, or not the Winfield Club. I was in the Field Club, and I mean, drinks are free, so I was drinking Woodson Whiskey all day. Hanging out with Marshawn Lynch and Sonny Bow and Mama Lynch and I'm just like, I thought we, and then I get back to the room and I go face first on the bed. I wake up at like 2 a.m. and I was like, yo, what's up? Like, let's party. My boy was like, bro, we lost. I'm like, right. What? We lost? But we were up. What? So yeah, I go back and I watch the games. Even the losses, I go back and watch the games.
Yeah. Well, you got to. Yeah, you got to. That's awesome, Kenny. Again, I know Cody and I have said this multiple times, but we appreciate you taking the time to come on here and talk football and just be an awesome person, man. I really do appreciate you coming on here and just being willing to talk to us. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right, guys. So all of Kenny's stuff is down below right now. You guys can follow his podcast at the Real Talk with Kenny King Jr. You can also visit KennyKingJr.com for all of his content. I think you put out a blog post every now and again. Is that right?
Every so often, yeah. Whenever I'm right. So I just I left Just Blog Baby. Now I'm with Vegas Sports Today. You'll start seeing a lot more during season. I did get credentialed this year, so I'll probably be going to some games as a writer and not just as a fan. So that'll be interesting. Awesome. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to say the least because you got to keep your composure, during.
You can't. So.
You got it. Yeah, you can't be too biased now.
Yeah, so
you can't go back and watch the game anymore, can you?
Yeah, exactly. So I will. You'll see more of that, but yeah, just check out KennyKingJr.com. It's got links to everything, and check it out.
Awesome. Well, congratulations, Kenny. That's awesome, man.
Thank
you. Get credential for that. That is, God. I wish I were you right now.
You don't want to be me.
All right.
Trust me. My life, it's not that fun.
Well.
You just want to be like the football side of me. That's it.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
No. Hold on. No, I'll push back on that. I had a good conversation with you beforehand, and you're just as great of a person off camera as you are on camera, regardless of the Raiders stuff. So I'm gonna give you your flowers on that. I don't want you to talk down on yourself because you're a stellar dude. So don't hang yourself short, okay?
Appreciate that.
All right, Drew.
All right.
Short hang him though.
You want me? You want? Yeah. No. Yeah, you're an awesome person, man. I really do appreciate it, and congratulations on all your success. That's so awesome. So, Cody, you want me to do our whole spiel here?
Just give them the website and let's go home.
All right. Yes. Go visit DrewCodeSportsTalk.com. All of our social media sites are on there. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that jazz. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and also the podcast. And also how everyone's been commenting on this video. This is how we always want it. We always want to hear from everyone, whether you agree with us or not. Please comment. Please like. We do appreciate everything. So thank you guys in advance for watching. And Kenny, again, a huge shout out and thank you to you for coming on to the episode. Cody, any final thoughts for you?
Man, football season's going to be great. Kenny, we're going to probably have to get you on the calendar again for football season, man. This was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Yes. All right, guys. Thank you.